Hey, it's Will from EDM Tips, and today I'm going to show you how to make trance like this. We're going to go through every step of the process from a completely blank project to everything from programming the beats, creating a bass line, creating an epic chord progression and melody, sound design, mixing and arrangement too. I'm using only the stock plugins in Ableton Live, but you can follow along in any DAW. As usual, you can download this project completely free using the link below this video, and these are the same techniques that have helped our accelerator students like Zoe and Jonathan get signed to labels such as Black Hole and Cold Harbor. Not to mention our other accelerator students getting signed to labels like Anjuna Deep and Colorize. Now, throughout this video, I'm going to be uncovering 5 secrets for writing trance, and I want you to write them down as we go, and then you'll remember each point better and be able to implement it into your own music. So without further ado, let's hop into the door and get it done. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is hit 138 mother freaking BPM because we're going for that vibe, and then I need to get a big fat kick drum in there. I'm going to go to my favorites because it's really good to work with favorites, and I'm going to kick it. I'm going to kick it, yes I can, with a cosmic kick, because it's kind of really meaty and chunky, and that's what we want. Now, after that, I want to reduce the volume of the kick down to -12 dB peak, because although trance sounds really big and fat, what we don't want to do is just push the volume of everything straight away, because then we're going to run into clipping issues, and we don't want that. And then what I'm going to do is just stick a kick on every beat. So that's a 4/4 beat like so. Nice. And I could tighten it up if I wanted and make it a bit shorter, but I actually kind of like the way it dies out, so that's quite cool. And what should we call it? Trance? Ah, it's 2025. Let's call this trance, would be a fine thing. Anyway, it's done. We've got to keep it now. Right, I'm going to just colour that green and call me Susan. Don't do that. Well, you can if you like. Right, don't do that. Right, next thing we want to do is get the chords in, because the chords are going to be how we build up everything else in this track. So I'm just going to put my chopwords in, and I'm going to just use a grand piano to work these out. And that's because I don't want to get distracted by all the cool sound design, which we will be getting to in a few minutes, so stick around for that. And the easiest thing to do when writing any genre of music is just pick a key and stick with that for the entire track. So I'm going to choose F minor, because why not? I always write in A minor, so let's just switch things up a bit. Now I can hit the scale button, and you'll see that I'm only seeing the notes within the scale of F minor, so it's like a template technique, keeps things easy. And I'm going to make this quite a long progression, because in trance, sometimes you want it to go over 8 bars instead of 4, which is kind of a bit more of a housey speed to do that in. So we want an epic progression that's going to develop over time. So let's just work out some notes. I'll start the progression on the root note, just keeps things easier. And I'm just working out the bass notes of the progression first. That's going to be our foundation to build up our chords. Let's just move it down a couple of octaves. So I just want something that kind of drives me forwards. So it's kind of bringing us back down to the beginning of that progression. And now what we can do is build up the chords above that. So I'm just going to skip a note each time when it's in scale mode. So that's the 3rd, that's the 5th, 3rd, 5th, and these are just the standard triads. Named as such because there are 3, aka tri, notes within each chord. Now one of these will sound dodgy, it'll be a diminished chord, but I'll show you how to fix that. Sounds good, amazing, best note in the world, second best chord in the world. Oh, hello, you're diminished, can't have that. So to fix a diminished chord, I'm just going to move this top note up to that position there. Great, so that's going to be our chord progression. It sounds basic at the moment, but don't worry, we're going to make it really exciting. So exciting, in fact, that it might blow your freaking mind. but that's a risk I'm willing to take. So next thing we want to do is work out the melody. With trance, it's really important to have a strong melody. Pretty much all trance, you know, that's going to drive things forwards. So I'm going to, again, just do it in the grand piano. It's just easy to work all within one instrument and then get it sounding great just as a basic grand piano. And then when we actually move it into different sounds, it's going to sound awesome. Anyway, stop waffling, Will. A trick that you can use for writing melodies if you struggle with it is to first watch that video that's popping up there. But second is to just draw in a rhythm that works really nicely on the root note of the track, of the key you're working in. So if our track is in F minor, I'm just going to take this to an F. And I'm just going to work out the rhythm of the melody on this one note. Something that just works around the kick and gives me some groove. So I'm just putting random notes in that I think will sound cool and groovy. And then a repetition of that pattern. And actually, we could just have that as the melody and just take it down a note. You maverick, Will. That actually sounds like a cool melody anyway. But now I've written in a rhythm that I think sounds good. Now I can just change the pitches of the notes whilst I'm still in scale mode. So I'm just repeating the kind of pattern and then varying it slightly. Okay, that'll do for now. We might change that a bit later. Next thing I need to do is work out the bass. Now, I'm going to just stick to the root note of the track for the bass line at the moment. So let's just take that chord progression over there. We're going to use that in a few minutes. And let's just write that bass line in. So I'm going to use just, as I said, the stock plugins in Ableton today. And what I'm going to use is the wavetable for this. And let's just load that in on our bass. Put a saw wave in there. Monophonic because we don't want the bass notes bleeding into each other. And then I'm just going to program it in on the 16th. That's too low, so I want to go down to the lowest octave I can while still having the power in the bass. And what I'm going to do is this classic trance technique of jumping up an octave in between each 16th like this. So if we slow it right down, you can hear what's happening. It's just going dun 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 dun, jumping an octave each time. So it can be quite hard to hear when it's fast, which is why I slowed it down then. But it gives a real groove to the track. And now it sounds like this. But I just want this to be our sub bass, so I'm going to switch that to a sine wave. And we just want that kind of power. Okay, but we need to get those mid-bass tones in there as well. So I'm just going to call that sub-bass, boom, then, or alb bass, as I like to call it sometimes. Then I'm going to call that mid-bass. And for this one, I'm going to take out some of the notes. I might just do a different pattern, actually, but still hitting those same just root note of the track. So now let's just get a kind of cool rhythm in there that dances around the rest of the bass. So let's just open that up. So we can hear, now we've got this dancing rhythm going on with that mid bass, but we don't want it fighting with our sub bass because we've already got everything under 100 Hertz catered for with the kick and the sub bass. So I'm going to roll off everything under 100 Hertz on this mid bass. And now what I want to do is get some movement into this sound. So I'm going to use a second envelope, and I'm going to use that to shape the filter of this bass. So instead of a low pass filter, I'm going to go for a band pass filter. And then I'm going to assign it on the matrix here to be controlled by that second envelope. And then it gives it that cool tone. Let's add some filth to this, shall we? Yes, Will. Please let's. Okay, as you asked nicely. Now we're getting a really cool groove going. But let's add, I've just turned it up because I love it. Let's add some unison to this one. So we've got some stereo width. So with trance, you've got a lot of rhythmic interplay with different basses quite often. And as long as they're not going to fight with your main sub bass, you've got a lot of scope for adding some really interesting stereo width and some different rhythm as well. For example, we could throw a delay on there. I haven't practiced this, by the way. I'm just kind of going for it. Let's see what happens. Put a ping pong delay on there. This is all going to tie together in a couple of minutes when I show you this awesome trick, actually. But that's already sounding really cool to me. So, boom, magic list, magic list. What do you say to me? You say drums and vocal beep. There you go. So we need to get the drums in there. We've got the kick, we've got the bass, lovely jubbly, Bob's your uncle. Let's get the rest of the rhythm in there. So I'm going to take Ferry's advice and I'm going to go, well, it wasn't advice, I'm going to follow his observation, if you will. Put some old school sounds in there to make it sound kind of like it's from the 90s to a degree, but produced to a crispier, higher quality because of the tools we've got. So I'm going to go to my favorite claps. I'll go for a classic 909 clap, like so. Now I'm going to program that clap in on every other kick. Classic dance beat. Every other kick like that. I'm just extending that out so we can hear the whole of the reverb. And for anyone that's done my new music theory for EDM producers course, I'm going to use the second snare skip point to add the groove. So now we've got this at the end of the bar. At the end of the bar, you'll hear it. Let's add a little bit of reverb to this. So what I've done is I've got in my default template, if we open up this routing button here and this R button here, I've created this room reverb within the drum rack. And I did that by right-clicking, create return chain, and then choosing one of my global reverbs or delays that I had created earlier. So now I can close that down, just keep the S button on, and then you can see I can now send separate amounts of reverb, or rather I can send these separate drums different amounts of reverb. Yes, get in there. Now it's a bit like BBE, 7 days, 1 week, whatever it's called. That's nice. Diddle, diddle, diddle. Okay, I should do a video on that. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a video breaking that classic apart. Okay, next thing I want to do is get an open hat in there. So I'm going to go for, let's just go drum hits. Just get something that's kind of quite punchy and a bit dirty sounding. No. That's kind of closed hats, aren't they? That's an open hat from a 909 as well, TR909, but it's kind of quite grungy and filthed up, so let's keep that in there. Just in between every kick drum. This is a classic house and trance beat at the moment, and now we've got this effect. A little bit of reverb. You know, you don't have to do much to get something sounding pretty cool straight away. But now what I want to do is get a closed hat in there, sorry. So I'll just go for a classic, again, 909 closed hat, which is going to sound a bit like this. Oh, we got ride cymbals too. Yeah, we'll use that. I'll have you, son. Get in there. And then I want to just get that closed hat. Just a normal 909 closed hat. And we'll program that on every 16th. And then you're going to really recognize that trance vibe. And I'm just varying the velocity slightly to add some movement and interest to those hats. Now let's bring it down and just bring it up slowly. So quite often new producers will put their hats too loud in the mix like this. So just be aware of that. You can actually make them a lot quieter than you might think. All right, let's put a ride cymbal on every 8th, and then our groove is going to be pretty much there. A couple more things I want to do that will really stand this apart though from a standard trance track. So let's just bring up the ride cymbal slightly. I don't want it to be bleeding into each other, so I'm going to set it to one voice. So every time a new ride cymbal plays, it cuts off the last one. Yes. Now, this is where the magic happens. By 1, I'm going to create a loop there. I'll show you that in a second. What we're going to do, it's really going to add depth to our drums. And the second thing, I'm going to have a vocal beep, as I mentioned. And this is really just an added rhythmic thing that you can do to let people know what key your track is in when you're starting out. And this can work for any genre, really. So let's go vocals. Come back to me, vocals. Vocal hits.
Bom, bom, bom.
No. Hello, Charlotte. I like what you're saying. I do. I appreciate it. But it's not what I need for this instance. So I'm going to go and find some different ones. You know, we'll circle back to that later. I want something with some tone. That's slightly bad singing, but it doesn't matter. I just want one little vocal note, like so. And I need to make sure it's in the same key that we're working in. Because if it's just a random note, then it doesn't make any sense. So our track is in the key of F, so I want this to be hitting an F. I'm just kind of doing it by ear. So now that's hitting an F. So what I'm going to do is have that really low in the mix. In fact, I could play with the formants and like, yeah, that's kind of cool. And I just want that to happen like twice a bar. And it's going to create this really cool groove and let people know, even if the bass isn't playing, what chord or what key this track is in. So you can hear what key the track's in just from that one little hit. So I'm going to put, what I'm going to do is put a little reverb on there, direct on the channel, to push it back in the mix and just make it sound a bit spacious, like so. Let's turn it up. So it's quite subtle. Put an EQ. That's enough really. And then I'm going to put a delay on there. So it's really subtle, but it just adds this lovely kind of tonal quality to our drums. Okay, boom, on to the next thing. Let me know if you're enjoying this so far. Give me a hell yeah, or an amen, brother, if you're feeling holy. And then I'm going to do some really cool stuff with some other things, and which is exactly what we want, right? So I'm going to add some more rhythmic beeps, but not until we have got that bass line sounding absolutely sick AF. So we've got this cool little mid bass thing happening. And we've got the sub bass, or alb bass, apparently. But I'm going to actually duplicate that, and I'm going to create another mid bass because I'm a crazy son bitch. I like bits of music. Okay, mid bass 2. I didn't swear then, it's still children safe. Children safe is important for my channel. Right, okay. Mid bass 2. So again, I'm going to get that kind of saw wave sound, and I'm going to spread it nice and wide with some unison. Going to take out the low end with the EQ, like so, because the mid bass is just doing the mid frequencies. We've got the sub bass doing the low frequencies. And I might push this one up an octave. So it's almost like a little synth accompaniment. And I'm going to add a filter pluck to this mid bass, the second one, because it's too just like meh, 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 meh. So I'm going to go mid bass, matrix, take it down there. Again, do the same thing I did, but keep it on a low pass filter. So now we've got that kind of plucky sound. But enough to add some really nice stereo width. Check it out now. Taxi, no, come on, check it out now. Come on, calm down, be kind. Mid bass, sub bass. Yes, get in. So now we can start building up to the main break, and then we're going to go back and add the extra synths to this. I need to speed up, don't I? Right, first thing I'm going to do is group all of these basses together, call them bass capitals, so I can see it's a group, and then I'm going to throw a sidechain compressor to make it bounce against the kick, like this. So if I hit sidechain trigger, like so, and then this is just going to duck the bass line, like so. So this is without the sidechain trigger turned on, without the compressor, sorry. And now, and that allows the kick to really poke through. So we've only ever got one thing at a time, really handling the bass. Just add some more rhythm. And I'm actually going to copy that and put that on our 16th hats as well. So they're going to bounce as well. I've already got one. Just very slightly though. Okay, cool. Okay, let's get on to the main break, because that's where we're going to get that really emotional stuff happening. So I've got my chords. I'm not going to use the grand piano sound. I'm just going to keep that as what we wrote it in. Then I'm going to call this riff. And I'm going to use another saw wave for this. I could just literally copy any of these ones that I've already done, but I'm not going to, although I could. I'm just going to use another wavetable, and that's really just to show you how quick it is to create something that sounds cool for this genre. So all I want to do now is copy this MIDI up into my new instrument, like so. So if you want your music to sound like Zelda, you'd stop here, and then that would be done. In fact, no, you'd probably move it to the square wave. But we don't want it to sound like Zelda, so what we're going to do is take out the melody for now. We're going to save that for a different instrument. We're just going to keep the chords, and I'm going to do something called an arpeggiator on this. I'm going to use an arpeggiator on this, so I'm going to go MIDI effect and drag on this arpeggiator. And what an arpeggiator will do, will play, instead of playing all the notes of a chord together, it will play them in sequence, and you can decide on that sequence and the speed at which they play. So here we've now got this effect. But we want it sped up to 16ths. And as we've only got 3 notes in each chord, it creates this really cool syncopated rolling rhythm. I'm not sure I like that last chord. I don't know. Let's see what happens. I could add one more. I I like the kind of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 vibe, but let's see if I can just add the 7th or the octave. So this would be the 7th position because you've got the first note of the chord, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, which is the standard triad, those 3 notes. Then you can carry on up, counting up, the 6th, the 7th. So then that's the 7th of this chord. And it usually makes it heart-meltingly beautiful. So I think I'm going to do that for this chord as well. We can add the 7th, but I still just want 3 notes playing at once. So I'll delete the 5th there as well. And we can change from the 3rd and have the 5th there. So then we've got this cool thing that happens halfway through. Okay, let's just keep this one up here and then I'll figure out what it should do after that. Reverb. Yeah, it should definitely go to that note. Maybe we just hold the other 2. That'll sound really nice, yeah. So some things just kind of come out as you are producing, of course. Now, what I want to do is add more of a plucky shape to this with the filter. So again, I'm gonna take that filter down and assign it to envelope 2. And I'm going to choose a different filter type here from this drop down to add something with a bit more grunge, because then you can add drive to it. It just adds a bit more character to the sound. So I'm going to have to take it down in volume to account for the extra drive I'm adding. Okay, that last bit sounds really nice now. Okay, now what we want to do is take that melody that we wrote, like so, and I'm going to just copy that and post that on yet another saw wave. So I'm going to call this one Arp, actually, and then this one can be Riff. And I'm just going to take it all, paste it. Oh, I pasted it, so it started in a slightly wrong place. Maybe it's there. I can actually move it around and see how it sounds. And I need to get rid of the arpeggiator on that one because I just duplicated the last track. I'm going to just change the riff now. So now, with this riff, it's a bit kind of too nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this down a couple of octaves. And what I want to do is try something that I haven't tried before. I'm going to throw a distortion unit on there. I'm just kind of going with my gut now. I'm going off piste. The magic list is done. Let's just see what happens, okay? I'm going to use this. I'll use amp because I love amp. It just sounds cool. So now let's have a listen to what we can do with this synth. So now it's a bit more. Oh, I know what I can do now. And then I'm going to add some pitch bends in here and it's just going to sound insane. So I'm going to go envelope, I'm going to go MIDI control pitch bend. And at the end of each bar, it's just going to go down like this. And it's going to sound freaking awesome, he hopes. Whoops. So I'll extend this note out. No, it almost sounds awesome. And that's because I want to make that pitch bend range be bigger. So how do I change the pitch bend range? MIDI, it's got to be here, right? Pitch bend. Let's make it 12 semitones. Yes, yes. But I want it to stop when the note stops. I know, I just need to extend that kind of pitch bend downiness to that point. No, we will just cut that out. So the way I'm going to do that, it's painstaking, but I will use a utility. And that's because I want to stop that sound completely at that point. So I'm just going to automate it like that. It's a pain to do, but sometimes it's just the best way to do it. Because I want there to be the release to bleed in between those notes. And then I think I'll have that pitch bend happen there as well. But it's going to have to be a faster pitch bend because the note's shorter. So let's try that. We'll just have to pitch bend down for that second bit like so. That's cool, I really like that. So let's listen to it with the chords. And what I'm going to do is actually duplicate that. I'm going to group it together and I'm going to create a second version of the wavetable. I told you I'm going off piste. And I just want that amp affecting the first one. So I'm going to drag it back. And then the second one, I want that kind of square wave sound. And I just blend it in. That's a cool riff. And then we need to add some chords like that. So let's have a listen to it so far. So we can build up to this. So this is what I want to do. As I said, it's all about these saw waves. You can do so much with them, and it's amazing how many tracks are just built based on saw waves. It went in the trance kind of genre. So I want these to be really short and stabby, so I'm going to take the release right down, sustain right up, and it's just going to be like... So Let's just add a couple of those bits in, take it down. So it's now like this. So I'll probably have to take this to 16th to 30 seconds lengths so it can really be stuttery. Let's just pull those over a bit. And then we can add this harmony. So we'll bring that down in volume, take down the frequency, add a filthy filter onto it, some resonance, take it down in volume. And then we add some nice hall reverb on there, loads of it. Instantly yes. So we can now filter this up as the track builds. As it builds up like that. Let's loop it around. And then we can have the call and response. So we can have this call and response. Let's just call that response. Responds. My spelling is terrible today. So now we've got this call and response thing. The second time it runs through, we can do that. But we don't want it to sound exactly the same. And the way that we can do that is add unison to this first one, or the second one maybe. So it now spreads out. So here's the call. And then we go up that second time. Actually, this is an absolute tune, isn't it, really? So we can open these up over time with the... Let's just do some arrangement now. Okay, we're running out of time. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go, let's go. That's done. That's done with. So we can build up these drums over time as well. So we'll start with just these ones, these chords coming in, and we'll start off low and we'll open it up with automation like so. And this is how we're going to build up to the epic break. No, I don't want those drums in yet. Now. Here we go. Drum rolls. And then we can start off low with that. We'd start off much lower like that. It's a bit like Enjoy the Silence by Depeche Mode. And now we get the main riff. Na, na, na. Some strings in here. I want some strings in there. So I'm just going to use, I'll search for strings and I'll just use some Ableton strings from one of the packs. Let's see what we got. Orchestral strings, yeah, we'll use you. Strings ensemble. Yeah, let's just put those in there. Nice and quiet. Bring those chords in. I might bring the chords in from the piano, like here, but take out the riff that we wrote. And now I'm going to use chord inversions and just move some of the notes from the chords down so they're closer together, and it makes them sound kind of cool, like more professional, I guess. And if I move these two down, the space across the keyboard is less, you know, that like this. Let's move them up a... Oh! Yes. But I find that you kind of need the same amount of notes in each chord. Otherwise, some of the chords just sound a little bit thinner than others, and I like them to be a nice, even thickness. So let's try this. Ah, beautiful. But that last one, we just changed that to withhold, to hold that one note, and now we've got this. Let's put some reverb on there. So then we've got this. Let's take this riff up. And I'm just filtering out the low end of that frequency as well, so it doesn't fight with the bass. I'm going to do a bit more work on this, add some vocals in just really quickly, and then you can download the project file. So this is the final thing now. How are we going to do it? I'll play it in a minute. Let's go through those 5 most important trance secrets. So, did you get them? Number 1 is using an emotional chord progression, usually in a minor key. This is the underpinning of the entire track, and if you don't get that right, none of the rest of the track is going to work. And that's why I've slightly changed my chord progression going through to get something that just made me get a heart-melting feel a bit more. The second thing is a strong emotional melody. If you can get these two things to work well together just using a grand piano or a similarly simple sound, then it's going to sound great when you use really good sounds for it. Number 3 is rhythmic bass lines. If the bass line isn't actually playing on every 16th note itself, and it's playing in between each kick, like you'll need some other synth that's hitting all those 16th notes to add that really driving groove that trance is known and loved for. Number 4, there are usually 2 sections when it comes to trance in terms of music theory. There are the sections where it's just hitting the root note of the track. So in our example, we're having our bass line bounce around on the F, and then for the second part of the track, it goes into the chord progression. Now where these root holding places and these chord progressions come in differs from track to track, but usually the track will start just holding the root note, then it will go to a chord progression, then it will go back to just holding the root note, then the chord progression again, and then for the outro, we'll just go back to holding the root. That's a pretty standard arrangement for trance. And number 5, you'll be amazed at how many sounds are used just using a basic saw wave. I use so many in this example, and hopefully you could hear by just adding slight variations or playing them on different octaves, you can still craft a lot of interesting sounds just with this very basic waveform. Now don't forget you can download this project below, and if you want to see the track I made after I spoke with Armin van Buuren a few months ago, you can check that out in the video that's popping up here. But before you go over there, if you did enjoy this, please give it a like and a share, and if you want to get your music to a professional level as quickly as possible, we can help. You can check out the Music Production Accelerator below, where our students are getting signed to some of the biggest trance labels in the world. We can help you too. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you over at that next video.